Hello and welcome to the channel. Tonight we're going to have a bit of a tribute quiz for the late Diego Maradona, who died on Wednesday. Sort of the idea of the quiz is going to be that it's going to sort of tell the story of his career and what he was doing, at different points of it. So, just to begin with my own thoughts and memories of Maradona. Obviously, he's a fantastic footballer. At my age, I was just a wee bit young to have seen the best of him. I was born in 1984, and obviously, the sort of the later part of that decade was probably his peak. I remember sort of very briefly Italian 90, USA 94. I remember, but obviously that was the one where he got sent home. I remember the goal was again. I think it was Greece. He scored, and he ran over into the camera, and I think that may well have been his last appearance for Argentina. But while I don't necessarily remember him, at his peak as a player, like one of the things I do remember really well from like my younger year of watching football was like the culture that surrounded Maradona, and it was like whenever you were a kid and you were playing football with your friends in the street, it was like, somebody was good, it was like Maradona, it's like he was the one that people regarded, thought of highly, and thought of the most. My own generation, probably, I have always a wee theory that people will look at like World Cups that whenever they were a teenager, I'll always be the one that they'll regard. So like some people, they're a wee bit older than me, I'll look back and say, Maradona and talk about 1986. For me, like probably my World Cup that I remember the most of was France 98, and obviously you had Ronaldo from Brazil at that one, and Zidane, and it was a different time, obviously, but that's always my theory. So sort of people that are a wee bit older than me, Maradona seems to be there, the one that they'll hold in the highest of esteem. People older than that, you'll be looking into like Cruyff, Best, Pele, different generations and different people. Obviously modern Ronaldo, Messi, so it is what it is. But anyway, I'm going to run through this wee quiz and see what you think. I'm going to just run through it as it goes. So if anybody's playing along and you want to comment, I'm only going to read the questions out twice, and then I'm going to give the answers as I go along, rather than reading them all out and come back over them. So there's 25 questions. Some of them are multiple choice. Some of them aren't necessarily multiple choice because they're like yes or no, so I didn't really do them like ABC. But we'll just work through them anyway, and we'll talk. Obviously, if anybody wants to comment, wants to, talk about how they remember Maradona or shout out answers, whatever, feel free to do so. It's just a tribute to one of the best of all time. So, question 1. Maradona was born on the outskirts of which Argentine city? Was it Buenos Aires, Cordoba, or Rosario? That's Maradona was born on the outskirts of which Argentine city? Buenos Aires, Cordoba, or Rosario? Just give it a few seconds then. So the answer for question number 1 is he was born on the outskirts of Buenos Aires in 1960. 60 years old when he passed away this week. But yes, Buenos Aires. He was born in Lanús, Lanus, which is just on the outskirts of Buenos Aires. So, question 2. With which club did Maradona begin his career? Was it Argentinos Juniors, Boca Juniors, or Newell's Old Boys? There's Newell 90 was in, got Buenos Aires right. So fair play to Newell. So yes, question 2. With which club did Maradona begin his career? Argentinos Juniors, Boca Juniors, or Newell's Old Boys? He didn't begin his career at Boca Juniors, although obviously Boca Juniors is the Argentine team that he's most associated with. But he actually began his career with Argentinos Juniors. I'll not talk too much about that because there's a few questions later on in the quiz, that that involves his time with Argentinos. So, question 3. At what age did Maradona make his debut? Was he 14, 15, or 16? At what age did Maradona make his debut? 14, 15, or 16? Maradona, whenever he made his debut for Argentinos Juniors, he was actually 15 years old. He was, I think it was about 10 days shy of his 16th, 10 days shy of his 16th birthday when he made his debut for Argentinos Juniors. So moving on to question number 4. In what year did Maradona make his Argentina debut? Was it 1977? Was it 1979? Or was it 1981? In what year did Maradona make his Argentina debut? Was it 1977, 1979, or 1981? The answer to that one is it was 1977 when he made his debut. So he was in the Argentina squad prior to the 1978 World Cup, which of course Argentina won on home soil. Which makes it, you kind of wonder would he, have made a big impact in that tournament. Obviously, he was very young, but he was a remarkable talent even then. But yeah, he played before the 78 World Cup, but I believe the manager at the time says that he thought he was too young to play in the World Cup. I was reading about it earlier, and he decided against it. So what do you do? Question 5. Against which team did Maradona score his first international goal? Was it Ireland? Was it Scotland? Or was it Wales? Question 5. Against which team did Maradona score his first international goal? Ireland, Scotland, or Wales? So I've actually seen a few people talking about this sort of online over the last week or two. It was at Hampden Park against Scotland. I believe it was 1979. But sort of from talking and seeing different people online, they've been talking. They were there at Hampden. It seems to be one of those ones where everyone was there. If everyone that says they were there was actually there, there'd have been about 3 million people in the stadium. But it seems to have been talked about a lot, where like nobody really knew him that much, in Europe at that time. And he went and performed particularly well against the Scots at Hampden, and that was the sort of first time that a lot of people seen him. So the next one then is question 6. Maradona helped the Argentina under-20s to the 1979 FIFA World Youth Championship, but did he win the Golden Ball and the Golden Boot? That's question 6. Maradona helped the Argentina under-21s to the under-20s to the 1979 FIFA World Youth Championship, but did he win the Golden Ball and the Golden Boot? So the 1979 FIFA World Youth Championship, he did win the Golden Ball for the best player in the tournament, but he actually didn't win the Golden Boot. He scored 6 goals, but it was a fellow Argentine who took the Golden Boot. Ramon Diaz scored 8 goals. I think, I have it here. Maradona scored 6. Ramon Diaz scored 8. Diaz, some people might remember him. He played in Serie A around the same time as Maradona. He played for Napoli actually before Maradona went there. He also then played for Avellino. He played for Fiorentina, and he won the Scudetto in 1989 with Inter. He's most famously known as kind of like a River Plate legend. He helped them win the Copa Libertadores in 1986 as a manager. Ramon Diaz won the Golden Boot, but Diego did win the Golden Ball that year. So, when Maradona moved to Boca in 1981, did he help them win a league title? That's question 7. When Maradona moved to Boca in 1981, did he help them win a league title? He actually wasn't at Boca for very long. In the first instance, he was there for about sort of a year or 2 years. He left that obviously after the 1982 World Cup and went to Spain, but he did help Boca win a league title. Actually, quite interestingly, the league title that he won in 1981 with Boca Juniors was actually the only league title that he won in Argentina. So yeah, he won the league in 1981 with Boca, and it was his only league win in Argentina. It's question 8. How many times did Maradona break the world transfer record? Was it once, twice, or 3 times? That's how many times did Maradona break the world transfer record? Once, twice, or 3 times? So Maradona broke the world transfer record whenever he went to Barcelona, and after 2 years in Barcelona, he moved to Napoli, and it was again a world transfer record. So he broke it twice. He broke the first time. I think Paulo Rossi had was the record transfer before him, and then he broke it again whenever he went to Napoli. So it was Rossi, Maradona, and then I think the next one might have been Ruud Gullit. Broke it after Maradona had went to Napoli. So twice is the answer to question number 8. Question 9. Did Maradona win La Liga with Barcelona? Question 9. Did Maradona win La Liga with Barcelona? The answer to question 9 is no, he didn't. He didn't actually win the league title with Barcelona. He had quite bad luck with injuries. Whenever he was at Barcelona, he had hepatitis, which took him out for a while. He had a broken ankle, and he never won it. It's looking through his record. He did win the Copa del Rey. He won the Copa de la Liga, which was like a version of like a League Cup version, and that was played in Spain for about 4 or 5 years during the 80s. And he also won the Supercopa which is the Spanish Super Cup. So he won the Copa del Rey, the Super Cup, but he never did win the league. Looking at his record in La Liga, he scored 11 goals in the league in both of his seasons with Barcelona. But in the year one, he played 20 out of 34 league games, and in year two, he only played 16 out of 34. So out of 68 league games during his time at Barcelona, he only played 36 games, which obviously, just over 50%, which is, it's very low, but such was his luck with injuries. It didn't really work out. Like, although his performances were good, it didn't necessarily work out just with Barcelona. So, question 10: which club were Barcelona playing when Maradona was involved in a famous on-field riot after the Copa del Rey final? So was it A, Athletic Bilbao, was it Atletico Madrid, or was it Real Madrid? So that's which club were Barcelona playing when Maradona was involved in a famous on-field riot after the Copa del Rey final? Was it Athletic Bilbao, was it Atletico Madrid, or was it Real Madrid? So the story behind this one was it was a Copa del Rey final, and what I mentioned already that Maradona had his ankle broke whilst playing in Spain, and the guy who broke his ankle was playing in this final, and he'd been, there'd been a bit of a running battle. There's talk that Maradona was also being racially abused during the game due to his Indian heritage, and in the final whistle, him and the guy who broke his ankle before came head to head, and I think Maradona just let all loose, and I think he kicked him, punched him, and then there's like famous photos of him like karate kicking a guy, and I think there was like 60 people injured during that game, like people trying to stop the fighting, but it just went completely crazy. But the answer to the question was it was Athletic Bilbao. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the guy's name. I'm not even going there. The Basque names are a bit beyond my my capabilities, but it was. I'm not sure whether it was his exact last game for Barcelona, but I know that it was kind of decided after that game that it wasn't going to work out for him in Spain, and he moved on shortly after. So, question 11: how many goals did Maradona score in the 1986 World Cup? Was it 3? Was it 5? Was it 7? Question 11: how many goals did Maradona score in the 1986 World Cup? Was it 3, 5, or 7? So the amount of goals that Maradona scored in the 1986 World Cup was 5. He obviously won Player of the Tournament, unsurprisingly, but he didn't win the Golden Ball again, or the Golden Boot, again, because Gary Lineker, England, Gary Lineker actually outscored him. He was second in the race for the Golden Boot alongside Emilio Butragueño and Careca, who was playing for Brazil, and although not at the time, but would later go on to be his teammate at Napoli. So, question 12. Who was Napoli's top goal scorer when they won the 1987 Scudetto? Was it Andrea Carnevale? Was it Bruno Giordano? Or was it Diego Maradona? So that's who was Napoli's top goal scorer when they won the 1987 Scudetto? Andrea Carnevale, Bruno Giordano, or Diego Maradona? The answer was Diego Maradona. He did win it. He was their top goal scorer. He got 10 goals. Carnevale was second with 8, and Giordano was 6. Obviously, 10 goals to be the top goal scorer for a team that won the league isn't a lot, but you remember what Serie A was like at the time, the 80s and the 90s, and obviously 10 goals was a good return in that time. Question 13. Did Maradona ever win the Capocannoniere? For those that don't know, the Capocannoniere is the award for the top goal scorer in Serie A. So was Maradona ever the top goal scorer in Serie A? So question 13. Did Maradona ever win the Capocannoniere? So the answer to question 13 is yes, Maradona did win it. He won it actually in 1987-88 season. He scored 15 goals for Napoli, who finished second in the league behind the one of the great AC Milan sides of the era. They're obviously a special side back then, and they pipped Napoli to the title. I think it was about 3 or 4 points, and maybe it was back in the 2 points for a win stage, so it was two games they won up by. But yeah, 15 goals. Maradona scored that season, which was enough for top scorer in the league, which again, shows what Serie A was like at the time. Second, incidentally, in the list that year was Corega, who by now was at Napoli and scored 13. So, while Milan won the league, with a strong defence, certainly would have been the likes of like Baresi, Maldini, possibly Tassotti and Costacurta maybe. Napoli were obviously, as far as Serie A went, free scoring with the top two goal scorers in the league that season. So, question 14. When Napoli won the UEFA Cup in 1989, who did they beat in the final? Was it Bayern Munich? Was it Juventus? Was it Stuttgart? That's question 14. When Napoli won the UEFA Cup in 1989, who did they beat in the final? Bayern Munich, Juventus, or Stuttgart? The answer to question 14 is Napoli beat Stuttgart in the final. They beat Stuttgart 5-4 in aggregate. I think Maradona possibly scored a penalty in the first leg in Naples, and they won 2-1 in the first leg and then drew 3-3 in Germany. But I think they were maybe 3-0 or 3-1 up away, so it maybe wasn't as tight as it sounds. Bayern Munich and Juventus were both defeated that season. Bayern Munich in the semi-finals 4-2 in aggregate, and Juventus 3-2 after extra time. I think Juve won the first leg 2-0, and Napoli come back in the second game and won 3-0 after extra time to go through to the semi-finals. That would have been. So. Question 15. When Napoli won the 1990 Scudetto, was Maradona the top goal scorer? So same crack as 1987. Was Maradona the top goal scorer whenever they won the Scudetto in 1990? The answer is yes, he was. Maradona scored 16 goals that season. Correcto was Napoli's second goal scorer with 10. He didn't win the Capocannoniere. Van Basten scored 19 goals for Milan, and Roberto Baggio scored 17 for Fiorentina. This was, of course, the season where the Italian teams all done particularly well in Europe. I think AC Milan, won the European Cup, and who won the Cup Winners' Cup? I think the Cup Winners' Cup was Sampdoria. I think they won it that year, and then the UEFA Cup final was between Fiorentina and Juventus, which was, of course, then the day of the second leg of the UEFA Cup final was the day that Juventus announced that they were signing Roberto Baggio, who would then have to play against them that evening. So it was obviously a bit of dodginess. Question 16 is it's a bit of a mad story. Maradona admitted that Argentina tried to spike a player from which team with tranquilizers at Italian 90? Was it Brazil, was it Italy, or was it Yugoslavia? So Maradona admitted that Argentina tried to spike a player from which team with tranquilizers at Italian 90? Was it Brazil, was it Italy, or was it Yugoslavia? So the story behind this one is there was a certain player that, I'll give the answer. The answer was Brazil, and it was Branca. And Branca, back in the day, before those that don't know him, he was kind of like the Roberto Carlos before Roberto Carlos. He was a bit of a free kick specialist. run up and down the wing, and was a real threat. So seemingly the Argentina team had put some tranquilizers into a water bottle, and they had, put like a different coloured lid on the bottle to sort of distinguish it. And whenever Branca asked for a drink, someone threw on the water bottle with the tranquilizers in it, and Branca's told stories about how sick it made him feel. And seemingly in a TV interview years later, Maradona admitted that yes, they did do that. So, question 17: did Maradona score a goal at Italia 90? Question 17: did Maradona score a goal at Italia 90? So the answer is no, he didn't. He actually didn't score a goal at Italia 90, which is quite remarkable. Obviously he probably wasn't at his best by Italia 90. He's still regarded as one of the best players in the world, and they went on, to play for a good number of years after it. But by that time, the lifestyle had began to sort of catch up on him a bit. He didn't score a goal, but he did make it in. Obviously, Argentina made it to the final. He did make it into the team of the tournament, and he did take 2 penalties in penalty shootout wins that Argentina had on their way to the final. He missed against Yugoslavia before scoring against Italy in the semi-final, which is obviously the famous game where Maradona told the Neapolitans. The game was at San Paolo in Naples, and Maradona told the Neapolitans that that Italy didn't care about them, and that they only wanted support from them, when it suited them, and that they didn't really. There is a history, obviously, in Italy of there's a big north and south divide, and the Southerners would sort of be looked down upon a lot by the northern Italians. And Maradona made the point, to try and get some support for Argentina, and a lot of people kind of turned against Maradona after that, and he only lasted 1 more year in Italy after. In 1991, I think, was his last season in Naples. So, question 18: for which Spanish team did Maradona play when he left Napoli? Was it Betis, was it Espanyol, or was it Sevilla? For which Spanish team did Maradona play when he left Napoli? Was it Betis, was it Espanyol, or was it Sevilla? The answer, of course, was Sevilla. The Espanyol, obviously, rivalry with Barcelona probably wasn't going to happen. And so of the 2 teams, then Betis and Sevilla are both from Seville, but it was Sevilla that he played for. That place did not pop up. No, it didn't. So we're moving on anyway. Question 19: when Maradona returned to Argentina in 1993, who did he play for? Was it Newell's Old Boys, was it Racing Club, or was it Vélez Sarsfield? Question 19: when Maradona returned to Argentina in 1993, who did he first play for? Newell's Old Boys, Racing Club, or Vélez Sarsfield? So the answer was it was Newell's Old Boys. I was looking at it, and I was wondering, did he ever play under Bielsa? But certainly not with Newell's Old Boys. By that time, Bielsa was with Atlas in Mexico, I think. But don't definitely quote me on that, but I think it was. But yeah, he played for Newell's Old Boys. I think he only played about 5 or 6 games. Question 20: did Maradona score more goals in his first or second stint at Boca Juniors? That's did Maradona score more goals in his first or second stint at Boca Juniors? Maradona scored more goals in his first stint at Boca Juniors. He scored 28 goals in his first stint, and in his second stint, he scored 7. He played longer in his second stint, but by that time, it was very much beyond his best. And whenever he had been at Boca in 1981. He was just 2021, just making his way in the game, and obviously, he had performed so well in the season that he was there that Barcelona broke the transfer record. Whereas whenever he returned, then almost 15 years later, he wasn't the same player. 21. With which club did Maradona score most goals? Was it Argentinos Juniors or was it Napoli? So these were the two where he kind of had, statistically, his peak performance. Obviously, people will look back at his time in Napoli and say, that was probably the best of Maradona. But which was it? Argentinos Juniors that he scored the most goals, or was it Napoli that he scored the most goals throughout his career? So it's actually quite tight. The figures, we don't really have figures for all competitions for Argentinos Juniors, but we know that he scored 116 goals in the league for them. Whilst at Napoli, he scored 81 goals in Serie A, and his total was 115, which is one less than what he scored with Argentinos Juniors in the league. So we know for definite that he scored the most goals with Argentinos Juniors. We don't know just how many exactly he scored, but he definitely scored at least 116. 22. How many Argentina players have scored more goals than Maradona for the national team? Is it 0? Is it 2? Or is it 4? The total that Maradona scored for the national team was 34. So how many Argentina players have scored more goals than Maradona, who scored 34 goals for the national team? Is it 0? Is it 2? Or is it 4? So Messi has scored 71 goals for Argentina. Batistuta has scored 54. Sergio Aguero has scored 41, and Hernan Crespo has scored 35. So Maradona, in terms of goals for the national teams, is 5th on the list. But obviously, it's worth noting that teams, they tend to play a lot more international football nowadays. So in nearly all these countries, whenever you look at their list of all-time scorers, players who played in generations past don't tend to rank very highly on these. So the fact that he's 5th and all 4 players, have played since him, and certainly like back in Maradona's generation, there wouldn't have been as much messing about with stupid friendlies and stuff, which sometimes can add a bit of stat padding as well. So, but the answer is there's 4. Question 23. At which World Cup did Maradona manage Argentina? Was it 2002, was it 2006, or was it 2010? So that's at which World Cup did Maradona manage Argentina? Was it 2002, was it 2006, or was it 2010? It's one of these things where like whenever I think of Maradona managing Argentina, it was like he was wearing, I'm sure people will remember it, but he was wearing this suit whenever he was managing the team in the suit. I don't know whose suit it was, but it wasn't Maradona's. So it was the guy who was suit this was a lot bigger than Maradona. You just sort of remember him in the sideline. It was quite funny, obviously, just watching him with this oversized suit. But which World Cup was it? Was it 2002, 2006, or 2010? Personally, I whenever I was researching this one, I thought it was a different one. I thought it was the 2006 World Cup, which was obviously the one that was in Germany. But it was actually 2010. I believe that's how they done. I know they won all their group games. They beat South Korea, Greece, and Nigeria in the groups, and then they went into the second round where they beat Mexico, but then they got hammered in the quarterfinals by Germany. There's like a crazy record where like Argentina getting knocked out of World Cups, and it's nearly always Germany for like a lot of World Cups in a row there. 2006 they lost, I think it was a penalty shootout to Germany. 2002 they didn't go out of the groups. 2014 was the final, and 2018 it was France beat them. So question 24. With which team did Maradona manage in most matches? Was it Al Wazal, Argentina, or Dorados? That's with which team did Maradona manage in most matches? Al Wazal, Argentina, or Dorados? Throughout his career, Maradona has went into managing. He's managed a handful of sides in different countries, and he's been appointed to different jobs, but it's never really been a consistent thing with him, to be honest. Um, like so many greats, management doesn't seem to come easily to the very best players. Quite a lot of the time, I suppose, like there's always the theory that whenever you're Maradona or you're whoever, whichever one of these elite players, whichever one you are, and you're trying to tell people what to do, and the expectation is that they'll be able to do it, but maybe your standards are higher, and it's always a thing that people talk about. So the most that Maradona ever managed a team was 38 games, which essentially is one season in most leagues and in around most leagues. That was the answer was Dorados in Mexico was 38 games. So Argentina was actually second. They managed Argentina for 24 games. So a national team job was a second most, which shows that it was. I just don't think. I think he needed to show his passion and his love for the game, but coaching and management probably wasn't the way for him. The third one then was Al Wasl, and they were 23 games. They were the top three. So there was other teams that he managed. Some teams he was the manager of and never managed the game and stuff. So I don't think that was the route for him. Question 25, and the last one in the quiz. So who were the last team Diego Maradona managed before his death this week? Was it Fujairah? Was it sorry? Was it Fujairah? Was it Gimnasia de la Plata? Or was it Racing Club? So that's who were the last team Maradona managed before his death this week? Was it Fujairah, Gimnasia de la Plata, or was it Racing Club? So the situation here was that Maradona was managing this team and had been managing this team for a wee while, and they obviously COVID kicked off, and by the time the season restarted about a month ago, I think he was officially still in charge, but he wasn't really working. He wasn't. He had been in hospital obviously with the stuff with the brain at the start of the month, about a month ago, and he came back, got out of hospital, but he wasn't coaching them. But although I don't think officially he was removed or anything, but the answer was Gimnasia de la Plata. So I think officially he was still a manager at the time of his passing, but he unfortunately had been unwell for a wee while and hadn't managed the team for a few months. So that's the 25 questions. As I say, like I don't care if you get 25 out of 25, brilliant, well done. But for me, it was just a way, of paying tribute to Maradona. I think most people, will talk about Maradona as like certain people of a certain generation will say he was the greatest of all time. Personally, just because of my age and such, I would say I would go with Messi. But I know I'll listen to the arguments, and people make the arguments that it was more difficult for Maradona at the time, and I've seen Maradona even himself saying that he thinks that players like Messi and Ronaldo owe him, some gratitude because the treatment that he got on the pitch led to a crackdown on certain challenges and certain tackles, and it made the game easier for them. And he's probably right. The game has evolved and it's changed. What could Maradona have been like now? With obviously, what could Maradona have been like? If he didn't have his off the field difficulties as well. He could have probably went on, maybe won a couple more things and stuff. But it is what it is, and like whether I'm not going to sit here and say he should have done all the things that he'd done. It was part of his character. That was Maradona. Nobody's going to be saying that all the like craziness in the stories. You know, like he was that was part of the beauty of him. You know, he was genuinely a maverick. You know, there wasn't going to be anybody telling what to do. Um, but no, he was definitely. There's no doubt that sort of most people, certainly older than me, would talk about Maradona and Pele, and I've seen videos on them both, and I don't like judging a player on their YouTube history and whatever, so I'm not gonna jump in that debate. But there's no doubt about it that Maradona, if there's a Mount Rushmore of the best footballers ever, Maradona's on that, and he earned his place on that, and he's definitely one of the greats. So, as I say, hopefully, there might be something that you've picked up through this, which you didn't know about Maradona before, and if you did, that's my job done. So there's nothing else to do but just the tribute to the great man, 1960 to 2020, 60 years old. He had quite I think he said when he was 40 that he had lived a life that was worth 70 years. So by the time he was 60, God knows, he must have lived a life of about 115 years or something, So no doubt a legend, and no doubt definitely one of the greats. So thanks to you for watching, and thanks to Maradona for everything he done for football. And while he's passed on, his legacy never will, and rightfully so. Thank you and good night.